Hello, I am Danii Oliver, and I am one of the newest professors in residency at the Bias Rehab Center. And today I want to talk about explicit bias that you may not know you have. I work primarily in the beverage production industry. I focus on beverages from water all the way up to spirits. I call my experience the seed to spirit experience. And as you can see, I'm right out here on my farmland where I will be growing up seeds to spirit beverages. I take seeds and I crush them into smoothies. I take the fruit and press them into juice. I add yeast and create beer, cider, wine. I add bacteria and create ginger beer, kombucha, John Kvass, and I distill those into spirits. So that is the seed to spirit experience. Sounds fun, right? But there is another side to the work that I do. And that side is the interaction with other people. Now, the biggest part of the industries that I work on, or I should say the most popular facing side, is the beer side. And within that industry, there's a lot of male-dominated bias, male-dictated bias. And I think it's important to note here at the Bias Rehab Center that when we live in an industry or we live in a society that has a dominant culture, that we all learn from that culture. We all take something from that culture and we give it back. We give it back to people. Now, we might think that we are above it. We might think that we're better than it. We might want to be better. But there are sometimes may or have come times where we don't even realize that we are acting in accordance with the culture. I think a lot of the time when that happens is when we don't want to admit that we have to play the game in a certain way. Everybody wants to get out of the rat race. Everybody wants to do things different, especially in this 2021 because we're kind of still in it. Especially in light of the event 2020, that's what I'm calling it, event 2020, which we're still very much living in, hasn't even been a full 12 months yet. In light of event 2020, we are all making the decision collectively that we want to move forward with change. And some more vocal than others, and some less well planned than others, and some louder than others. So we've got more vocal, we've got less planned, and we've got louder. All right? Vocal is they keep talking about it. Right? Less planned is they talking about it, but they don't have a plan for it. And loud is they're being seen more, heard more above anyone else who's possibly doing the work behind the scenes. Now, this is an issue that comes up that people can assign terms like perpetrating or appropriation or just not being about it. I would like to not place titles on these people and these occurrences. I think everyone is trying their best and trying to be nimble. But I also feel like it's important that we find a way to call out instances where people may not be on their best behavior. I'm also searching for a way to diffuse certain situations. And here at the Bias Rehab Center, we are providing resources in order to do that. But I also want to share with everyone that this is very much going to be a work in progress for many of you. There won't be one solution. There won't be one way. And that's important to note. I also want to point out that we need to be careful that as we try to shift the paradigm, that we have to note areas where we are using our feelings as determining factors on what is fair, what is right, and what is the best way forward. Our feelings cannot lead us into the post-event 2020 world. While it is true that we all going through a spiritual awakening right now, that we are all evolving, that some of us are ascending, it's important to note that some feelings cannot evolve with us, or they will hinder us from evolving if we don't look at things from a bigger picture perspective. For instance, I have witnessed white women speak to other women within their position of privilege, forgetting that they are coming from a position of privilege. I have witnessed white women call upon women of color to do more than they said they could handle for no pay. And these are white women who have meant well. These are white women who want to help others. And sometimes I think they've forgotten that in trying to help others, that their feelings on who deserves help can come off as a bias. Because if you're asking us to help another white woman at the detriment of a woman of color, that is speaking from a place of privilege. And that does not do the right thing in the end. Because while that white woman might be helped, you have half a dozen women of color who are hurt in the process. It is a very fine line to walk. But I need women to understand that when we are looking at situations of equity, of inclusion, and of diversity, that those who have a leg up, those who have a presence, don't need help from those who do not. If the people you are asking to help, someone who has something substantial, if they don't have it, then you are taking from them because they don't have it to give. While they might want to try their best, you have to understand that if a person in the have has, and the person you're asking to help the person in the has isn't looking back, isn't trying to help those, doesn't have anything to give, you are expressing the bias in your privilege that you think your feelings are better than those who don't have. Another situation I need people to be aware of is when they give back the abuse that they've received. I've witnessed white women talk down to other women, tell them that they were little, tell them that their vision was narrow, tell them that they didn't get the final say in a situation where they're the ones who were tasked with making something happen. When we have feelings about situations like this, we need to stop and think, if it were not for this person, could thing A or B happen? And if the answer is no, I need for white women to please check your privilege. Whether you are talking to another white woman or you're talking to a woman of color, I need you to check your privilege. Because if you say to someone, if you say to a woman, you don't matter, I know best, you are belittling that person. Especially if you are not willing to take up the mantle, or you don't have the capacity to take up the mantle and do what you are asking of that other person. I've seen people tout the equity token, right? I've seen people tout the diversity card and push so hard for inclusion that they are excluding those who can help them get to their goal. I know that right now the pressure feels like it's on. I know right now that it seems like we got to figure it out today. We got to rush, we got to hurry up. But I've seen too many times within what is barely even a month of the new year, white women push so hard for something that they forget to be inclusive, that they let their feelings take over and take control of the situation. And then they step into the realm of alienation. Now, I have no idea how to speak on this person to person. I'm seeking safe space here at the Bias Rehab Center for those who are open to have those conversations. Because really and truly, every time I have tried to diffuse a conversation, a situation, where white women who call themselves open to diversity, open to equity, open to inclusion, women who say, I'm not racist, I have witnessed them time and time again step into that realm, cross that line where they've lost themselves and given back the abuse and the bias that they have received. And that is toxic. There are men out here who genuinely want to change and who are open to listening and not moving. There are men out here who want to hit you with the 1-2 fake, right? They want to take those pictures. They want to jump on board with the logo usage. They want to say we're a part of, and then they don't want to follow up. And you know what? We recognize that as women, we have given up our power for a very long time. And so men have their own work to do, but women have their work to do as well. Because women belong to a culture that has put women down by women who've been hurt time and time again. We are now living in an age where we have a word for this kind of woman. We call her a Karen. And Karen doesn't always know when she's being Karen. And sometimes Lucy doesn't know when she is acting like Karen. And no matter how much Allie abhors Karen, she doesn't see Karen within her. And that is hard, and that is scary. But it's work that we have to do, and it's work that we have to call out. For any white woman who is watching this, if you work in a beverage industry, doesn't even matter. If you work in any industry, and you call yourself an ally or an advocate for women, for people of color, for LGBTQ, I need you to think about the conversations that you've had within the last 20 days. And think to yourself, when did you tell someone that you knew best? When did you tell someone that your ideas were better than theirs? When did you tell someone that their expertise didn't matter? When did you take it upon yourself to pick and choose above everyone else what you thought was best and inadvertently created alienation? Now, that might be hard to look within yourself and find, especially if you didn't see it happening in real time. But I challenge you to think back on the last 20 days. Think back on the conversations you had. Think back to the times when you said, in my lived experience. Think back to the time when you said, in my naivete. Think back to the time where you defended your position lording over a person of color. I know it's hard to look within yourself and find that you have parts of yourself that you dislike. But I challenge you As much as you see in the world that you hate, also recognize that you see that and feel that because you're projecting that. And I also claim it. I don't claim to be innocent in this situation. I too am part of a system where I have witnessed other people hurt other people and didn't stand up because I didn't know what to do. But I sit before you today committed to finding the answer, committed to working through it, committing to share with you my resources, my experiences, my recommendations, so that together we can move out of Event 2020 and enter a new paradigm, heal from our biases, heal from our weaknesses, and together we can grow.